York Times piece on Amazon's work is a tough profile. Jeff Bezos, as we said, publicly responded. So for many, this is not really the image of Silicon Valley employers with a long list of perks ranging from free food and snacks to unpaid maternity leave. My next guest says Amazon employees need to stop being crybabies. Larry Winget is here. He is the author of Grow a Pair. He is with me from Phoenix. Larry, what can I say? We are very glad you are with us. But what are the chances that Amazon is a decent place to work but has pockets of toxicity like any big company?
Well, I'd say there's probably a pretty good chance of that. It's a great big company, and you can have pockets of that anywhere. Overall, though, when I read most of these interviews with these ex-employees, first of all, it's not hard to find disgruntled ex-employees. I don't care how big your company is, you can always find those people. But when I read them, it was kind of like reading a Yelp review of my favorite restaurant. I don't believe most of it.
All right. But Amazon, Google, Facebook, I mean, these are companies that others want to emulate, to eventually even bring down, so to speak, in a competitive aspect. So how tough is it for these big companies to keep the part of their startup culture? I actually was on Cyberdust, that's Mark Cuban's network earlier. It's anonymous, just asking, how many of you work for big companies? How many of you feel like they lost their startup culture? And most people say, you know what, once a company gets above, I don't know, a few thousand, it's hard to keep that team spirit.
It is hard to keep that team spirit, and I think that's certainly coming into play in the case of Amazon, but it's going to be a part of any huge company. The point is, Amazon has been very clear about what their culture is from the beginning. Jeff has not been unclear about what he says he wants from his employees and what he wants from the work that goes on there. So I'm a little surprised sometimes when people want to attack and tear apart, but then again, we always want to tear apart the biggest dog on the block, and he's the biggest dog right now.
And to be fair to his leadership abilities, I mean, he came out very publicly this morning and said, if this is your experience at Amazon as an employee, this is not the experience that I want you to have as somebody working for this company. Escalate your concerns right away to the highest levels of HR. So he essentially made this public, open statement, take it up with your supervisor, take it up with HR.
Well, it's what they could have been doing all along if they had a problem, and in most companies that's how it works. If you have an issue, you go to the HR department. In fairness, though, he had to come out and respond. I mean, the New York Times wrote this scathing article about him, and he had to respond publicly, and he did a good job when he came out and said, that's not the company that I run, and if you have a problem, write me. Now, I doubt anybody actually writes him personally, but he did come out the right way and attack it head on.
Larry, last question. Do you think that Silicon Valley is a tougher place to work? I mean, this sounds like the atmosphere on any Wall Street trading desk, of which I have been on a few, or partner track at a law firm.
Well, you know, Silicon Valley is probably made up mostly of millennials, and the workforce has changed considerably. And they expect a lot different sort of interaction with their employer than they did with the boomers and my generation. So it's going to have to be a different sort of leadership that's out there, and that's what I think the problem is. Leadership swings both ways. This pendulum swings both ways, and it's tougher right now for leaders to figure out what millennials really want in the workplace.
Larry, thank you very much. We're glad to have you.
Thanks.
Larry Winget joining us there. He is author of the book Grow a Pair. Apple, one of the biggest and latest Silicon Valley